There are a lot of open education resources, and I've worked on those for at least 10, 15 years. And they're sanctioned by the United Nations. You know, they're everywhere. I think the number one problem with open education resources is they're not ranked, they're not graded. And also, they are categorized, but the categories are too big. And so teachers can easily use some of those resources. They're open and they're free. But as a teacher, I know that the problem is that you don't have any time. That's the number one problem teachers have, no time. And so it's hard to find a resource that you need that'll work for your class in a short period of time. So that's why they're not as effective as they could be. However, I met somebody recently in Europe. I was in Brussels recently, and they are going to try to categorize the resources and make them more searchable. And I think that would benefit teachers all over the world because they're free. And there's textbooks, beautiful textbooks, free and up to date. And more people should make use of those. And you know, teachers who don't have the resources can go online and find those resources. But I'm just warning you, it's going to take a little bit more time than if you buy it. Because if you buy it, then, you know, it's all there. And, but, you know, when I used it, I didn't have the resources, so I used it because I wanted to find something free. And I think in all parts of the world, it's useful if you can spend the time finding it. Teachers, all students need the skills that a journalist has. Every single student on the planet. That is how to collect information, how to figure out what is the most important in all that information that you collected, and then how to communicate that in a way that is going to be effective for whoever you want to talk to about it. And then also how to use it, publish it on the web. So it's technical skills. All those skills are important for every student, everybody in the world to have. And so journalism skills should be incorporated in some class, actually multiple years. I would suggest, you know, grade 10, 11, 12. And it could be in a social studies class, it would be in a language class. I mean, I personally like having a journalism class, but a lot of schools don't have the time in the day, or they don't want to revise their curriculum. So I'm just saying, put it in one of the classes you already have. You know, being in the system, I know how hard it is to adopt new things in the system. It's not so hard to adopt a 4-week unit, but it's really hard to change for a whole new class. So like, just put it in somewhere. You decide where. But those skills are really important. Students need to be, let's say, it'd be best if they could be taught in class what websites are reliable information, what different kinds of websites they can use for learning different things. So like Khan Academy has a lot of good information, Coursera has good information, Udacity has good information. You know, you need to tell kids in class, give them the names, say, why don't you get started looking at these websites? And then, you know, do it at home too. And then come to class and let's talk about which websites you found that you thought were the most useful. And what did you find? I learn stuff from kids all the time, things that they find. I mean, we all learn from each other, but they have to first experiment with it at home and then at school, and then share that information. But there is a website in the United States called Common Sense Media, and Common Sense Media ranks a lot of the websites for parents. So it helps parents pick websites that are geared toward kids. So your child is not going on a website that is inappropriate. The number one challenge education isn't addressing, they're not teaching the soft skills. They're not teaching social emotional skills. They're not teaching compassion and empathy. You know, they're not teaching critical thinking. You can't learn to communicate if you don't do it. You can't read a book about how to communicate and then suddenly do it. Just like I said in that presentation, you know, you can't learn to be a surgeon by reading a book about it. You actually have to watch somebody and do it yourself. You know, no one wants to be operated on a surgeon that read about it in a book. Might cut out the wrong thing. A lot of schools have limited access to technology, so they don't have Wi-Fi. It's a problem. So we do have, actually here in Mexico, there are companies that offer, it's like a server, and they update the server once a week and get new information, and then that server distributes information to the students. They feel like they're online, but it's really a server, a local server that is doing it. Sometimes you can have one server for the school, depending on the size of the school. Sometimes you have to have one server per classroom. The servers are not expensive. The government can easily afford that. They can afford to buy these Chromebooks. Chromebooks are like $200 a Chromebook. You know, you can drop it and then you can buy a new one. You know, it's not like the Apple computer that is, I don't know, it's like over $1,000. Or, you know, some of the other computers are $1,000, but that Chromebook does the same thing and it's cheap. And you know, for schools, I recommend the Chromebook because, you know, children do make mistakes. But I do recommend computer over tablet. Although, you know, if people want to use tablets, then I recommend it grades kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, or, you know, some schools use tablets all the way up through 8th grade. Better to use a tablet than to use nothing. But I think it's easier for the kids to have a keyboard than it is to type on a tablet.